Hi everyone. So this is day 43 using the Fuji X-E3, and I want to give you additional thoughts on using the camera. One of the things that has surprised me about using the Fuji X-E3 is that I'm not using 4K as often, and there's a couple of reasons I think that this is happening. One, the file sizes are a little bit too large. Two, my computer takes a little while to work with these files. Three, there is no face recognition. And four, which I think is something that is probably the worst out of the three, is the battery life. And battery life is just, it easily drains the battery too quickly. And then probably five, the amount of time, I think you only have like 10 minutes or something of video. So that's something that is disappointing, and I'm pretty sure that's going to get better as time goes on with different cameras. Another thing about video with the Fuji X-E3, it's 720 capability. I'm really surprised of the quality. The quality is pretty good for 720 video. I'm very, very happy with that. And I was recording an event that was about an hour and a half long, and I had no problems with the X-E3. In 720 mode, you can record 30 minutes max. So I was able to record everything in one card, in one 32 gig card. And I also was using the same battery. I had about 2 bars left in the end. It didn't overheat. Now the room wasn't really hot. It was room temperature. It was around 75, 73 degrees or something, which is awesome. I mean, I thought it might overheat a little bit, but I didn't get the symbol. Everything seemed to be working perfectly, and the quality was good. Another thing that I'm noticing is that I'm kind of getting used to the fact that it doesn't have a D-pad. Now, I love the D-pad in the X100F and the X-T2. Really nice. To me, I just feel like there's better handling in terms of, moving around the menus and selecting things. But I've gotten used to not having the D-pad, though using the joystick is sometimes a little challenging, but I'm getting better at that. I think overall I can get used to that. One other thing that I'm also getting over is not having an ISO button on the top. And I've changed, I think, the FN button to be my ISO, which is a cool thing that you can reassign buttons. But ISO button, in the X100F was challenging, but I didn't complain too much about it because at least there is an ISO button on the body. And the way I'm recording and the way I'm taking pictures, I really don't need ISO as often as I do aperture or shutter speed. So I really am happy with not having one in the X-E3, but again, it's a little bit different than something like the X-T2. Now, taking pictures with this camera compared to something like the X-T2, using something like the 16 to 55 lens, there's a difference. The X-T2's body is a little bit bigger, and using the X100, the XF, whatever it is, 1655 2.8 lens is a little bit more manageable. Using the 16 to 55 on this camera, the X-E3, it's challenging a little bit. It is a little top heavy, and and I noticed that it gets kind of warm. I was using it for about 4 hours recently, the X-E3 with the 1655 lens, and it was getting kind of warm in the midsection, and surprisingly the battery life was drained kind of quickly. I mean, I had to use 2 batteries in a 4-hour event, which was surprising. I don't remember the X-T2 getting warm in the middle at all. Then again, I think the X-T2 body is a little bit bigger and maybe has better thermal processing, right, to get rid of the heat. So that's a kind of disappointment. I'm happy that the X-E3 you can change lenses, because I think using the X100F, that was one of the things that I was complaining about, that I couldn't change the lenses. And yes, I know the X100F is a different beast. It's not sold. It's sold as a type of different camera. The one thing that I didn't talk about in the review of the X100F is that when I take pictures with this camera, it's definitely louder than the X100F, because the X100F has that leaf shutter system, which I really liked. But there's many times when I'm taking pictures with the X-E3 and people are like, "Did you take the picture?" And it's like, yes, you just didn't hear it. So way better than something like the, I believe it's the Sony, right? Some of the Sony cameras. Though when you put it in burst mode, right, in very high speed mode, like taking whatever it is, 5 pictures or something or more, you can hear it. It'll slap, boom, 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 go click, 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 which is a little bit, distracting. So just keep that in mind. Using some equipment for video, like the the small HD and the Rode Video Micro, with this, the cables on those 2 devices going into the X-E3, they're really tight, and I noticed that the micro HDMI is a little bit loose, so I can see it easily breaking if I'm not very careful. Or if let's say I had it all put together and put it in a bag and I put it the wrong way, I can easily think of the HDMI, micro HDMI, just like bending something and making it, break it. So you gotta be very careful with that. And hopefully, if Fuji is if they're going to become more video centric, they will get away from using a micro HDMI. We'll see with something like the X-H1, if it does exist. Let's see what else. Taking pictures with the camera is really easy to use. Having something like the 16mm, which you see right here, the 16mm f 1.4, seems to be an awesome lens for filming. I'm getting away from the 23 f2, even though it's a smaller body, but that one-stop difference from 1.4 to 2, I think makes a big difference, especially when you're taking pictures inside. I've noticed that taking pictures inside with sufficient light, let's say some light from the outside, sometimes it's pushing the ISO to 3200, 1600, especially if you're using a lens like the 16-55, which is a 2.8 lens. So that's 2 stops. 2 stops, easily you can hit the 1600, 3200 mark, and you got to be kind of careful. One thing that I've noticed, and you might have noticed this on your camera, and it's something that I've noticed with the Fuji cameras, is that I like to overexpose it by almost 2/3 of a stop when I take pictures to make it a little more brighter. And I've heard that before. I don't know why you have to do that. I'm wondering if that's something that occurs to you. If it does, it would be great if you can mention it in the discussion below. One other thing too, before I forget, if you're liking some of these videos, please subscribe. One of my goals this year is to reach more than 1,000 users. Please tell your friends, your neighbors, anybody that you know, and that's because right now, you know, you need 1,000 subscribers to be affiliated with YouTube. So that's something that is one of my goals this year. I'll be seeing you later. All right, bye bye.